Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. It's another fantastic Friday's edition of Talk Today as we invite you to be a part of our ongoing conversation. And we start things talking to good friends about, something that's crucially important to us and to help make our society safer and much better. And joining me as usual today in the fantastic Friday's edition is none other than Mr. Michael McLaughlin. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. And Royal Fidelity Bank and Trust, money at work.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. And it's a pleasure to be able to extend the partnership across all of the various agencies within government and to speak to an issue relative to domestic violence. So in the studio, join us, we'll ask our guests, but from Nicole Quinlan to Inspector Dorsey Scott and Michaela Campbell from RCRPS Communications Officer. Maybe, Ms. Nicole, this Alliance to End Domestic Violence, maybe as we set the stage, start with you in a brief introduction, perhaps Inspector from that perspective as well. And the notion that communication and education is important, Michaela, but the more we have cross-border agencies, the importance of bringing everything together. And we've now created this multi-agency safeguarding hub. How we as a community benefits from it, but how we can also contribute. So maybe, Nicole, from your perspective.
So you want me to talk about the Alliance more or the MASH?
Start with Alliance first.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to ask Mr. Campbell if he could talk a bit about that.
Fair enough.
Sure.
I try to say ladies
it's
first.
Okay.
Well, we were here a couple weeks ago, a little while ago, doing a brief overview of the Alliance along with Marisha. But just to reiterate, the Alliance is a group of various agencies, mostly government agencies. We're also looking at adding some private partners as well. And also, of course, we have the Crisis Center. But the goal is to, basically our vision is to eradicate domestic violence. And the way we go about that in our mission is to kind of get the different agencies that deal with domestic violence together in one group, one room. And then we coordinate between each other to figure out exactly, specifically what each of our part is in supporting survivors and victims of domestic violence, how we can kind of streamline things, close any gaps, and also eliminate any redundancies so that there's a streamlined victim-centric process that survivors of domestic violence can go through and kind of make things as easy as possible as it can be for them. And then we also focus on a wider scale. We're doing education for the public to let them know just how prevalent and how impactful domestic violence is on society, because it's something that you can always hear about in passing, but it always feels like something that happens to people that you might not know or people that you know, but it doesn't directly affect you. Yeah. But what the reality is that it affects people that you're close to, and it affects you even if it's indirectly.
Yeah. So that's the impact, and we don't see how it's not just a knock-on effect, but that way society is impacted by it. We can see the employers and the colleagues, the customers, but that individual as well. The role of MASH, for instance. Well, come back to you, Ms. Nicole.
Just to follow up with what Mr. Campbell said, at the MASH last year, we had a total of 320 referrals that included domestic violence. Okay, so that is out of 1,100, I think, and 69 total referrals, 320 included domestic violence. Wow. So it speaks to the prevalence of domestic violence and how it impacts our children. So at the MASH, let's start with Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub. The main partners for MASH is RCIPS and DCFS, along with education. HSA is also housed at the MASH, but in addition, we have a lot of virtual partners, such as education, NAU, and we will work closely with a lot of other agencies so that we can not just tackle domestic violence, but it's child protection on a whole. So the referrals that come in are going to be referrals that where children are present.
Okay.
And so from a DCF perspective, we work to make sure that we help the families to get whatever support they need so that the children are not negatively impacted any further by the domestic violence.
With that, though, when we look at it, we're seeing domestic violence, and maybe sometimes we have a perception that it's women or it's children, but it's everybody in the household, and it's all genders and ages. Inspector?
Domestic violence, we know, has no respect to age and religion or ethnic background or so forth. It is what it is, domestic violence. The role of the RCIPS within the MASH is that it's the holistic approach in safeguarding children and also dealing with the vulnerable among us, right? It is all-in strategic meeting with partner agency, and Ms. Nicole talked about the virtual partners that we have as well. Assist with the decision making as it pertains to safeguarding not only children but adults as well as victim of DV. Assist with information gathering. Assist members of the public with documents, aid with the process of obtaining a protection order as it pertains to domestic violence. Also reviewing of DV referrals and incidents, referring referrals to other agencies for other intervention, and most importantly, carrying out investigation in both child and safeguarding and domestic violence incidents.
Yeah, wide and encompassing, I mean, the work that you do. And I was thinking to the extent of the increase in those reported, I wonder if it reflects an increase in the cases or just increase that people are realizing there is help, there is a resource, and there is no stigma. In fact, there is an obligation to report. So I wonder which is it. If the increase that we're seeing, is it because sadly the cases and incidents are increasing, or people are availing themselves and realizing that they should report and are reporting?
I'm not sure that there's one thing that's the reason for the increase. I think what we're seeing is there's a lot more PR, there's a lot more education in the Cayman Islands regarding domestic violence, and the fact that it's not just women that's affected, it's the families, and it's also men. Because I think a lot of times people think that domestic violence only affects women and children, but it's also the men. There's a lot of work that's being done, not just through the Alliance, but through other organizations, so that there is that information there so that people feel that there's a safe space to go to report. So we're seeing a lot of referrals at MASH because children are involved, but we're also seeing, I'm sure the police can speak to, a lot more referrals directly to them.
Right.
So visibility and awareness is effectively what is taking place, in your opinion, at this point in time. That's helping to. That's kind of a backhanded compliment there, helping to increase what's happening with you all, because you're working on an issue in society. But that's, if I'm understanding right, that's what you feel is being driven right now: more visibility and more awareness in the general public. That's helping you to gather information.
through the work that all the organizations are doing, people are feeling more comfortable to say, this is happening to me, this is happening to my neighbor, this is happening to the lady down the street.
Yes.
I think traditionally Cayman society has been very close, and we like to hide our heads in the sand, and whatever happens in the family stays in the family, that sort. But we also know that it affects everyone else. It, as Mr. Dwayne said earlier, it affects the workplace. It affects you at church. It affects the children at school. It affects everyone. So as a society, we need to come together and say that this is not acceptable, and here's how we're going to do it by reporting.
So, sorry, we're kind of taking a little step back here for a moment as Mr. Campbell is speaking about the Alliance. Is it because of that the Alliance was born? Obviously, you've spoken about this before. We want to try and make sure those who are listening who may not have been around when you were speaking about it before, to help them understand why the Alliance is and the importance of the Alliance joining up with everyone. Is that?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it's in a direct response to any particular spike in reports. So the Alliance started in late 2019, October 2019. I think it was just one of those things where it just was the right time. The people that were kind of in charge of the departments that deal with domestic violence just kind of realized that a more effective approach needed to be done, because I think what we see is a lot of different agencies dealing with DV in their own way, in their own silos, but there being some bit of overlap and some things that may not have been getting covered. And when these people were kind of in discussions, the heads of the organizations, they realized that this was the case, so it would make more sense to come together to try and create a holistic approach where all the agencies could collaborate directly and not just on a case-by-case basis to kind of address this issue in various ways, because part of it is, like we said, part of it is to try and reduce incidents of domestic violence, and the other part of it is to actually support people who are experiencing domestic violence so that they can have the best help that they can get and not have to kind of deal with going through the same thing over and over with various different groups. So it's also about gathering data so that we can also have data that is specific to the islands. So we get the data from the different agencies, bring that all together and create a holistic picture of what's actually happening.
So a coordinated approach that allows you to have consistent data across all. So when you're looking at the report from here, it encompasses all of it without it having to be competing or sometimes conflicting.
Or because a lot of what we look at now, I think a lot of the data we might get or reference is from other jurisdictions, but it might be similar to here, but it's not going to be specific to what's happening here. So I think it's kind of a similar thing to the MASH itself, which is where you have the different agencies that dealt with child safeguarding issues, but it's more effective for them to all be together, coordinate with each other all the time, so that they can see the case through in all the different areas that it needs to be going to.
All right. Well, when we come back from the break, maybe we can talk more about it, get people to understand that it exists, how to access the services, and maybe a question that we could also ask, what happens when a report is made? What are some of the potential outcomes? Does it all have to lead to this or that? So that people appreciate this is as much about prevention and through education, so that as a society, one person being affected in this way is, one too many. Let's pause and take a break. When we come back, we invite you to rejoin our discussion, please.
It's time to stop giving dads tools and ties for Father's Day. Dads want to relax just as much as you. Get the ultimate chillaxing beach kit for Father's Day at Savannah Pharmacy. Beach shorts, shirts, flip-flops, water shoes, goggles, towels, and sunblock. Let Dad kick back and relax this Father's Day. Gift baskets, including domino sets, coffee mugs, and so much more, are also available. Get all of your Father's Day purchases at Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, or call 946-3336.
I love my daddy, yes sirree.
At Subway, we know a meal isn't quite complete without a side, and that's why we're introducing waffle fries. Subway's waffle fries are oven-baked softness with extra crispy edge, giving a satisfying taste to be enjoyed as is or in any of Subway's dipping sauces. Order waffle fries as a side item for $2 or make it a meal deal. Subway, eat fresh.
Make your house into a home Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us, and joining me today is Michael McLaughlin as we talk about the MASH unit and the Alliance to End Domestic Violence. We're honored to be able to have Inspector Darcy Scott from RCIPS together with Ms. Nicole Quinlan, the social worker and manager over at MASH Managers. Well, you got a lot of titles today, Miss. And I really appreciate that you brought along that incredible fellow, Mr. Nikhil Campbell. Some of us seen him in other ravines and realized that it's a man of many talents. So, we appreciate as a communications officer at the RCIPS, you with your colleagues, the information you send out relative to what is happening. But I think this education exercise is important for our community. I can think back to last year, people who were in households being literally confined, what they must have felt like, and potential increase and the spike. But Inspector, well, Mr. McLaughlin, what do you
well, so we were talking during the break, and I think that it's important that we want to try and help the general public to understand the purpose. I think we've explained quite well, but then maybe we want to try and help educate people as to what the sort of process is, to help them move in a direction that is going to be positive and assisting them. So if somebody was feeling that they were in a situation that was not happy, shall we say, and they're interested in trying to get help, what would be like a first step?
Could I
Sure.
I think, might be best to start with what we actually would define. Like, how would you know that you are in a situation that's problematic?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Again, we always tend to want to educate the public at large to let them know as to what are the resources that are available to them when either they are victim or witness to DV. And this, I'm so happy for this avenue to be here and to extend this awareness. And first of all, we have to know what domestic violence is, right? It is an act, right? It's an act of domestic violence. Domestic violence is not a crime within its own self. It doesn't sit by itself. It is the act that surrounds it, right? Which is not acceptable and should be treated as such as any other crimes, right? The Royal Cayman Island Police have adopted a zero-tolerance approach towards such act, and as such incidents should be reported immediately, right, by anyone who may be experiencing, may you be a victim or a witness to domestic violence.
Yeah.
And how do you know, that you're in such circumstances? So I'll just say a little bit brief as to, what domestic violence is. It is it is not a specific statutory offense, but it is a term used to describe a range of criminal offenses. Right? This approach is also governed by statutes and laws and internal policies, and also a memorandum of understanding. And the definition that the RCIPS has adopted is that it is the physical, sexual, emotional, and financial abuse of one person by another who is in or has been in a personal relationship with them. The relationship may be between partners and ex-partners or other family members. So it's pretty much wide. Yeah. So here it is. If you're in a circumstance and you're not sure is this DV, domestic violence, then it's good to know what the law say on it, know what the law is all about, and how do I go about now that I know I might be in a situation of domestic violence. What do I do from here?
So with that in mind, who would someone in that feels in any way, shape, or form that they may be in a domestic violence situation, who should they reach out to first? Who would you recommend that they reach out to first?
Domestic violence, in the first aspect of it, it causes fear. First of all, and as soon as you recognize that you're in that position, call 911 immediately.
Okay.
Right, and there you will have the first response officers attending and speaking with you after the information has been gathered from the 911.
So I have a question for you now. Suppose somebody is in that situation, but they really don't feel comfortable with picking up the phone to call 911. How about if they felt comfortable talking to their neighbor or their brother or their pastor or just a close friend?
Right.
Is it still within a correct procedural matter where that individual could contact 911 on behalf of someone?
Yes, that person can contact 911 or even to take that person to the police station or to gather information and to pass that, because sometimes in DV we find that a lot of victims are quiet about the situation, and we have to be the voice of that victim. Yes, so as much information as we can gather and make a report of it is good.
Okay, so once help us move to the next step now. So somebody calls and says, I feel like I'm in a situation, whether it is through a support person or not. What happens next?
Okay, so say for instance the call I've gone through 911, the report is then logged, and then a first response officer attend the scene.
It's a police officer.
A police officer attend the scene. During that initial interview, an assessment will be done to see, okay, at what level is this domestic violence? At what are the acts? What are the offenses that surrounding domestic violence? What are they seeing? What are their observation? All of this is make note of. Then it all depends on what is seen there. It might execute maybe an arrest need to be done, or the information is taken and feedback through the domestic violence unit, where further assessment is done and then further intervention is done in that sense as well. Okay. But again, the RCIPS does adopt where it's a zero tolerance when it comes to domestic violence.
So in making that assessment, and I'm just thinking about some of the reforms that we're seeing taking place in other jurisdictions and in respect to other things. We have, sort of DCFS here and social workers. In these instances, when we call it, is it only the police or the social workers or other support personnel would come out along with the police, because the perception, I believe, with the community that they're there responding to a criminal act or breach of the peace, whereas it may be that, but it may also be something else that necessitates a certain other skill set.
Right. So at the first response, it would be the police officer who attend, and then from there the assessment is done, and then a referral is sent through the DV unit, and then maybe where we then assess that that referral, and if there are children involved, then of course we will get DCFS and other agencies involved.
Just to follow on to that, if something is happening, say for instance at 12 o'clock at night, and the police are going out and they're assessing that domestic violence situation, and they see that children are in need of care and protection at that point, they will call DCFS. We have an on-call, and we have a very good relationship where they will call us and we will come out and help assess the situation and also determine whether or not it's safe for the children to remain where they're at, or if they need to be somewhere else.
But is that just children? Because I'm thinking sometimes, unfortunately, the relations, not necessarily in this jurisdiction or this jurisdiction only, the perception we have instead of situations being de-escalated, it can become more inflamed just by the presence of certain people or certain types of people, what have you. Not to stress and stretch the resources of DCFS and the social workers, but I'm wondering when we come to there, obviously there is a violent behavior that needs to be dealt with appropriately, but sometimes things can get exacerbated and inflamed just because of
The presence.
The presence. I mean, if I see a gun, that sets me off, right? So stay away if you got a gun. Bring a pencil. We can do tic-tac-toe. But just some people respond a certain way with certain things, and I'm wondering now, if, you know.
But when I mention first response officers, these are officers that are not fire.
No. I know.
Okay,
I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
You know,
so yes, and these officers, all of our uniform officers are fully trained in domestic violence, and so they are fully aware as to what their expectations are when they attend a scene and so forth, and the relevant information and necessary information that is needed, and what is to be observed to then move on to the next step.
All right.
If in the event that it comes up that let's say the female, right? Because at this point in time, the crisis center only caters for women and children. If she needs to move, then they will assist, and that's how I think. Just following on to your point, where would they go?
Support,
right? But in the first instance, what police, and correct me if I'm wrong, tries to do is, if the male is the perpetrator, or another female, it doesn't matter, that the perpetrator leaves the home. That's the first course of action, if possible.
Okay.
So that would be the role of the police at that point in time, is to try and separate the parties.
Right.
Okay.
Again, working at the MASH now, it gives you a different perspective, because we are dealing with families and trying to build a better structure and people within our community. And again, you know, attending a scene, especially where children has been victim of DV, whether they directly see it or, you know, just hear, then of course, like Ms. Nicole have mentioned, DCFS would get involved at the same time, because it is a concern where the child needs to be protected.
Sure, safety.
Right. And if it is a scenario where the female needs to be protected, then the female is taken from that home, if so be it. And it all depends on the circumstances and the owner of the home and so forth and so on. Yes. And if it is the perpetrator, if an arrest is needed, then that is executed as well.
Okay.
All
right.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Okay. Both of us fighting for the microphone. Okay, well, we're going to take a short break, and we invite you all who are listening to join us again after the break, reminding you of the telephone numbers that you can call to take part. And I believe we have a caller who is on hold waiting to join us after the break. But the numbers are 800-534-8255, 949-8037, and WhatsApp available on 925-3261. Do join us again.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. Please be advised that the pension contribution holiday has been extended until 30th of June 2021. Employers and plan members should ensure arrangements are in place for salary deductions and remittance following this date. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan, keeping you informed. For further information, visit chamberpensions.ky, and for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. We're here for you.
The HSA Specialist Clinic has relocated to a new, modern, state-of-the-art facility at Smith Road Center to offer you a better patient experience. Receive care from top specialists in chiropractic, complementary and alternative medicine, neurology, ENT, urology, pain management, and more. Our orthopedic and telemedicine clinics remain at the Cayman Islands Hospital campus. Please remember to bring your own face mask when visiting any HSA location. Visit our website, hsa.ky, to learn more. At the HSA, you matter to us.
Talk today. but I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to Michael McLaughlin for being, part of, an ongoing discussion, dialogue, and adding great flavor to this mix as we continue the discussion relative to the MASH unit and the Alliance to End Domestic Violence. We have Nicole Quinn and Inspector Darcy Scott and Mr. Michael Campbell. We do have a caller online. Maybe we take a caller first and then continue the discussion. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And first of all, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Ebanks, for that question you posed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was very, very relevant. And I'm also pleased to know that one of the guesters spoke that fear is one of the first symptoms of, domestic violence, or I guess any type of violence or behaviors. And I would just like to pose a question that if any, children are involved in the domestic violence, which brings, like she stated, fear. And these cases are reported, one of the symptoms or factors is fear. That is in the individuals as well as children. And if the situations is brought to social services and the relevant agencies, however, you see the situation still remaining the same. You may have got, a conversation with a social worker or whatever. However, the situation remains the same. You see no action taken, to the persons involved or any help given to the children. Would you continue to stay in that position, or would you take this further, maybe to the minister of that department or to someone else a bit in charge of that area? If you're not getting any help or assistance and you see the situation just staying the same or getting worse, but there's no action taken against that, what do you do then? But who do you go to? Who do you report this to? And if you have reported it to someone in social services, however, nothing is done, but it continues on, who should you then go to?
Okay, well, thank you very much for that call. Let's see what our panel has to say in that regard. So it sounds like it's a situation that has been reported. And the individual, or even maybe those who have observed it, feel like nothing has really been done, or it hasn't been addressed to a more positive situation. What would you say to that?
I also talk about a lot of the work that we do is very confidential.
Sure.
And we don't necessarily want to include
the
everyone.
General public.
Yes, exactly. So even though it may seem to an outsider that nothing is happening, that doesn't necessarily mean that work isn't continuing with the family.
But
maybe
what
what
about the individual, though?
With the individual, with the children, it may be that that's not being seen by the outsider,
right?
But not necessarily that's not happening. But if the person is feeling that things aren't being addressed in a way that they feel that's satisfactory, they can simply make a complaint.
Okay, to the same department.
They can make a complaint to the department. If they feel that that's not being addressed, then I believe it goes to the ombudsman afterwards, or the Human Rights Commission.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure, but I could get back to you on that.
So if somebody were in that situation as it is being proposed, and they feel like they don't feel like enough is being done, then they would try and reach out to a supervisor or manager of whatever department.
A manager and then the deputy director, however. But I mean, one of the I guess the difficult things with domestic violence is that people choose to not leave sometimes.
Yeah.
And that can be for a myriad of reasons.
Yeah.
Right? It's about their situation, and we cannot dictate to them what they can do.
Right. It's a personal choice. They have to make decisions.
And I don't want people to think that this is something that they're doing because they enjoy being in that situation.
Right.
A lot of it is fear. A lot of it is the cycle of abuse itself.
The intimidation
exactly.
aspect. Yeah.
And we come across a lot of people that maybe they're threatening the children, maybe they're threatening immigration status, all these things. And the outsider may not see that. Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's reasons for staying.
Okay, so let's see if we can move it to another level now. So if somebody finds themselves in that situation and they don't feel like enough is being done, and they don't feel like they want to reach out to a supervisor, is there another course of action that individual might want to consider? Maybe going somewhere physically, trying to remove themselves to try and change, go take a different course of action? Do you have any suggestions?
We work very closely with the Crisis Center. They're part of the Alliance. We work with the Needs Assessment Unit because a lot of times you find that financial reasons is a reason to stay.
Yeah.
And so we work with those organizations, and we can help advocate for the victim to receive services. Right.
So that would be another option for them then. So if they don't feel like, let's just use an example. Say they came to the MASH unit themselves, and they feel like they didn't get the sort of response they wanted. Not only could they reach out to someone on a higher managerial level, but they could also go to, say, the Crisis Center to try another avenue, so to speak.
Yes.
And then hopefully find some other resolve.
Exactly. It's the Alliance is also about empowering people.
Yes.
Right. And these are one of the areas that, through the radio show, giving people the information that they can make decisions.
Yes.
Not just the victim, but the family and everybody else that's aware of what's happening.
Yes.
So if they don't want to make a police report, if they don't want to do those things or come to the MASH unit, then they can help them navigate some of those other systems that can assist them to bring themselves out of that situation.
Yes.
And just let me tap in here as well, is that as it pertains to the RCIPS, is that all officers that are working frontline and also in the various departments, we have now the DV contact card. And these cards are given to victims and perpetrator as well. And these are in cases especially where there are only domestic disputes, right? Where of course it leads from one level to the next, right? So the DV contact cards are given to the victim and also the perpetrator. And on the one side of it, it has all the agencies
that they can
make this contact to the contact number. We have the Family Resource Center. We have the Crisis Center, lawyer befrienders that you can get free legal advice from, and so forth. And then if it is an actual case that is going on with domestic violence, then you have where the portion that has the officer name and the report number, which make it very easy for that victim to, say, for instance, have to rely on that report to get a protection order through the court. Then that is readily available in there, and this is given to all DV victims and perpetrators when officers attend scenes.
For clarity, and I want to ask this respectfully, because I think sometimes, back to maybe policing, but also maybe in the private sector, you deal with a particular contact within the organization, the bank officer or the police officer. That person takes the report, they're working on the case. If that person isn't available at that time, just focus on the policing. Is it the file, is that thing really accessible by somebody else, so that you don't have to wait until the person comes on shift or comes back from vacation or gets back from? Is it that it can be accessed and acted upon then and there by whomever is in the office, as it were?
Okay. Well, long gone in the days where domestic violence happened is that the file will take forever to proceed and to even reach court. And by the time that happened, the perpetrator would have already done, make friendly advance with the victim, and then the victim would come back and wish for the matter to not continue. But now we are working along with the court and with the special DV court that we now have for domestic violence, the RCIPS and other agencies as well, and give their testimony as to how to go about fast-tracking these DV cases where special attention is given to those cases, and it's a matter of within a day the DV case can be completed and furnished to the DPP for a ruling and then to court.
But sorry, to get back to that question though, if for whatever reason they were dealing with a particular person and they attend or call or whatever, and that person isn't available.
Right. So before that officer go off on this rest day or so, the relevant and necessary stuff would have been done in that case, so that it won't create an issue where it's a hold up and the matter can't proceed. So during his absence. All would have already done on that matter.
Okay.
And I think just to answer the basic substance of the question, like in terms of if others have access to follow up. In other words, if there's an update that needs to be put in and the person is not there, then yes, the files are on the system, so the other officers in the unit would be able to take any additional info and input that as well. So it wouldn't be a case where it's like, no, come back in 2 weeks. No, they can take the info
exactly. It's also in cases where, because we have had several persons attending a MASH and just wanted to get an update, maybe just for further clarification as to what were already told to them by the investigating officer, and because that report has been updated fully, and in the absence of that officer, then we're able to go onto that report and pull it up, and the information is there to assist, with the victims, and to see what action were taken.
Okay. I'm kind of wondering about going back to, I'd imagine it's such a broad spectrum, it's going to be very difficult for you to communicate to those who are listening what all the different varieties there are of domestic violence. I mean, you kind of encapsulated it in, mental, physical, even financial. How do we sort of narrow down for people who are listening in any way, shape, or form, how they can make a determination to avoid it being either excessive or lack thereof, to know whether they should make a call or not? Is there any way that we can help to enlighten people out there? I mean, let's just draw a really strange example. I'm in a relationship with someone, but we're not married, it's just a relationship, and they borrowed $1,000 from me and I can't get it back from them. Is that a form of the financial domestic violence that we're referring to? Can we sort of help people to understand any parameters as such?
As what was mentioned before, if we stray from the definition itself, then we go in other aspect of the law. Right?
Okay.
Right. And of course, the definition itself capture where a person has to be in a relationship or an ex-relationship, right?
Okay.
And it entail, of course, the physical and the sexual and emotional and financial, right? As it pertains to the physical, you normally tend to find RCIPS more involved in, but it is more also the emotional and the financial part or aspect of it that we're more involved with at the MASH, because at the MASH we're able to then refer those referrals for the relevant intervention that is needed.
Understood.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if that answers your question, but
and I hear your question. I think it may be for the police a matter of, is this a one-time borrow that didn't get paid back, or if this is something consistent, and whether or not there are any threats, whether or not there's any coercion, all those sorts of things that will move it from somebody just not paying back some money as opposed to a domestic violence situation.
Okay.
Because domestic violence is about power and control.
Sure. Sure. Always.
Yeah.
Always, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention from the Alliance, part of our definition of, from our Alliance overall perspective, part of our definition of domestic violence is, are these incidents that are happening being used to control you, if you're the victim or the person that is being affected. So if it's a matter of the person using this financial lack of payment or whatnot to try and control what the person does or thinks, or even, you know, their actions and whatnot, then that is a big indicator that it is domestic violence.
It is some form.
And as Nicole mentioned, if the more consistent it is, the more clear it is that it's a pattern of domestic violence. So.
Okay. All right. We have a WhatsApp that's come in, and it's saying, please, can you ask them if part of their mandate includes DV prevention campaigns or educating victims or the layperson on preventing or reducing this act? And if so, what are these campaigns looking like?
I think with every referral that we receive at the MASH, as social workers going out, we talk a lot about safety. We talk about how to remove yourself from the situation, how to safeguard the children, right? It's about for us, for DCFS, I should say, right? It's about child protection. So how can we ensure that the children are protected? How can we make the home a much more safer place? And that's even if it's physical, if it's emotional, if it's sexual, if it's financial. We utilize the resources of the Family Resource Center, Counseling Center, NAU, anything that we have at our disposal. Ms. Dawson spoke about legal defenders, and it may be that you need something stronger, right, to be able to remove yourself from this situation. And we make sure that we equip the victim with all the resources out there and make the necessary referrals so that, you know, we can safeguard the children in the home and the victim themselves.
Yeah.
I just want to add mental health. It's a big part of domestic violence and the toll that it takes on the victim. Right, and the entire family. So we also do referrals to behavioral health, which used to be called mental health.
Right. Okay. Well, I understand that we do have to take a break.
We're willing to offer you. I know your schedules and the demands and your time, you know, very, very important. If you would like an extra few minutes when we come back from the break, there is a question or two from, you know, our listeners. We can pause, take the news, and come back and, you know, as you wish, so you don't feel like you have to rush it through. Let's do that for a minute. All right. See, the diligence, dedication, determination of our civil servants, man. They serve in society with honor and respect and integrity. So we'll continue the discussion as we return. Stay tuned.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The National Museum would like the public to know that it will be closing at 2:30 p.m. today for staff to attend a Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage function. They will reopen with normal business hours Saturday, June 5th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. In international news, the UK regulator has approved the use of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine in children aged 12 to 15, saying it is safe and effective in this age group and the benefits outweigh any risks. A U.S. government report on sightings of unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, found no evidence of alien activity but does not rule it out, officials have told U.S. media. The report makes no definitive assessments about what the objects might be, officials said. The report is the product of a military task force established last year to investigate decades of unexplained aerial sightings in U.S. airspace. A parking space has reportedly sold for a record-breaking $1.3 million in Hong Kong. It was one of several spots sold at an ultra-luxury development in the city. Hong Kong is so crowded that space, whether it is for living in or parking a car, can attract a huge premium. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions.
Talk today. Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And our guests have been so gracious to allow us for another 10 minutes or so. So they'll be with us until 1:15. Mr. Michael Campbell, Inspector Dorsey Scott from RCIPS, together with, Miss Nicole Quinn, and thank you all. This is a challenging subject, but I think increasingly through education, through awareness, and through participation across the wider community, we can, arrest the issue. No pun intended. Let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Yes, good afternoon again, and thanks for taking my call.
Well, thank you for calling.
I'd just like to state one particular incident that I see and I've heard that is actually practiced in the communities, and I think it's sometimes not regarded or seen as domestic violence. But as one of your guests stated, that sometimes anything that creates fear, and I've also heard one of the judges had used that one time. I think it was the past Kipling Douglas. However, I would like to ask a question, but at the same time, it is just like thought for food or food for thought. Bullying.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very serious thing. It has caused so many people and young people to do very destructive things, even committing suicide. So when we're talking about the safety and welfare of children, I think that has to be amongst when it comes down to the topic of caring for children and safeguarding and things like domestic violence. I think that has to be included as well. And one of the things that I see that is very concerning, and this is not for everyone, but it exists, and I think we need to have some statistics on this, some data recorded, that there's bullying in the classrooms by teachers, there's bullying in the workplaces, and government workplaces, there's bullying, and there's bullying everywhere. And I think that is ignored a lot. When they say sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words cannot, I think that's just the opposite.
Right.
And bullying is done in so many forms.
Right. Yes.
And I think that has to be addressed more than just wearing a T-shirt and stating it more to children, not bullying each other. Children do what they see in their homes, in their schools, and in their workplaces, which sometimes parents are so frustrated by the bullying that their supervisors, their heads of departments are given to them, that they react differently sometimes in their homes.
Right.
So I think this is a topic, and the public, it needs to be addressed, but I think, and the private, but I think more so is in the government departments, from schools to the workplaces to the offices. And I would really like to see someone pick that up and go with that, not only to the children, but to everyone in those workplaces and government.
Yeah, thank you. I think this maybe plays into some of the behaviors you've seen across our communities. But as we're talking to domestic violence, before we get back to that, just quickly a question came in asking, does it have to be the people, the partners, the parties that are living together? Just for clarity, they can be separate. Do they have to be together?
In the definition, it says partner and ex-partners as well.
So they don't have to be.
They don't have to be together.
If I may, I just want to thank the caller for bringing up the subject of bullying, though. And I want to say that the Cayman Islands government recently did a anti-bullying campaign in terms of making sure that everyone is aware of the policy. Also, the servants are aware of the policy. So it's taken that on as one of its own initiatives. But also, the caller touched on students and also teachers on students. Those types of referrals come into MASH also, and we investigate them. So we're trying to make sure that we are protecting our children from all those different areas.
Okay.
All right. And just to add there too, because although there is a MASH referral that is capture child safeguard issues and concern. When the DV module or referral has been completed, there's also a section there, talking about children and the children within the home. So that is captured there too on the DV referral, and then make mention to DCFS or in the MASH to the intake unit. So in a sense, we don't want to miss a child that may be abuse in an abusive home.
Thank you, Ms. Darcy. I think it says a lot that we're making sure that we're talking together, and that's exactly what the Alliance wants to do. So DCFS and RCIPS are working closer together to make sure that even if a child is not directly involved with domestic violence in terms of being hit or being in the middle of it, the fact that they are there and the fact that they're aware of the situation says that they're also a victim.
Yeah. I think in terms of the caller as well as the previous question before we went to the break, in trying to ensure that as much visibility is given and created around these things, the various campaigns lends to the circumstance much of like what the caller was speaking to a moment ago, is it happens in the workplace as well as in the schools. So with regard to programs and campaigns, is there something that is in place, educate me here, for office assistance, making sure that it's some sort of mandate within office protocol of whether they have monthly meetings or whatever, where it's something that's addressed. Same thing in schools. Is there something that's ongoing in school?
I know from the RCIPS, I think Mr. Campbell will talk a little bit more on the Alliance and what the awareness and education that is being done there. But I know from the MASH perspective, where the child safeguarding team and also the DV, we have gone into the schools and I've spoken on bullying and texting and the different offenses that can come from these actions, and just to let the children know that although it is there and it's the phones and the texting and so forth, you got to be mindful as to what is said. Pictures shared, pictures taken and share and distribute. So at that level they can understand this is what that there's laws that govern certain action that is done.
Okay. Well, but do you want to say anything more about that, please, Mr. Campbell?
Sure. Well, I'll just say, I guess, from the DV Alliance perspective, I guess bullying is a kind of a wider topic.
Sure.
And as the name suggests, the DV Alliance is focused specifically on domestic violence. So in terms of intervention in schools and in offices and stuff, we do speak to or have things targeted to those entities, but it's more about policies, especially in the office, in terms of supporting someone who may be affected by domestic violence, in terms of suggesting that they allow maybe leave and stuff like that, for not just for sick leave but more flexible leave, so that if they need to go and deal with court or they just can't come into work because of a situation, that is accounted for and it doesn't affect their employment, because that's another means of control where you're threatening the person's employment. But from a general educational perspective, last year we started a series of webinars on various domestic violence related topics, and focus on all aspects of it, from perpetrators and their mindset and maybe the help that they might need, to, of course, to the victims and other people in the community who are affected. So those were live webinars we did. They are available on our Facebook page. So I'll plug that. It's Alliance to End Domestic Violence on Facebook. And there's a series of videos that are there, and we're planning to continue the series this year. And the topics are going to, again, cover various aspects, looking at DV from all aspects, because you can't really cover everything in a 1 hour radio interview, you know what I mean?
Of course not, yeah.
And those are accessible on any mobile device, on any laptop, computer, or anything like that. So it's a situation where you might not be able to go to something. At least you can maybe, sneak away and be on your phone and watch something and get some information that way that you might not be able to access publicly. So
okay, has there been any consideration? I'm aware of our time there, Mr. Sterling. Has there any consideration been put towards something like these mobile billboards that were used a lot during the election campaign, and they're used to promote all sorts of fun events? Yeah. But this is a really important topic, and possibly, many people who may be in these circumstances until a report is actually made, whether it is from an outside entity that has viewed something and has chosen to take action for them. How many people will actually know all of those? Like, you've got that little card there. Maybe that's a consideration for maybe something like that to be publicized so that more and more people can be aware. I appreciate what you're saying about the web, though, but really and truly, unless you go looking for something, you mightn't find it or be aware of it. But something like that, you're driving along the road every day, and then you might see it. Just food for thought.
Yeah, for sure. That's something we'll be looking at in the future, I think. Obviously, it's a matter of funding. And everything. So hopefully we can work with some of our partner agencies and some other organizations to kind of put together some campaigns. So it's like I said, we just started about 1.5 years ago, so still building up.
I'm sure there's lots.
Definitely, thanks for that's a great suggestion, though.
That's for sure.
Good suggestion, my friend.
Every once in a while, I'll come up with something like that.
Well, we're certainly appreciative of this month, the opportunity to have this discussion, and if necessary, we can make the platform available more often. I know your schedules are, and time is very, very taxed, but thanks. Maybe quick closing thoughts, perhaps. Start with you first, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you for having us, as always. If you want to report domestic violence or any issue involving children for child protection nature, call us, MASH, at 945-0545, call 911, or mash@gov.ky. That's mash@gov.ky.
Thanks, Inspector.
Okay, my final thought is that let us be the voice of those who cannot speak. Yeah, as it is, again, the first call should be made to 911 if you're in fear, and of course we have 7 police stations, including Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, and the numbers I can give all 7. So for Cayman Brac it is 948-0331, and for Northside it is 947-2220. For West Bay it is 949-3999. Georgetown it is 949-2222. For Bordentown 947-2240 or 22. And Little Cayman is 948-0100, and for Easton 947-7411. Yes.
All right. Stations in all the districts.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate it, Mr. Campbell. Any closing thoughts from you, sir?
Yeah, well, thanks again for the opportunity for getting us on again finally. I know we were supposed to come a couple of times. And I would tell everyone to listen up for next month, last Friday of next month, or this month.
This month.
Yeah, last Friday of June is going to be the next DV Alliance member appearance. I can't remember which agency it is, but I think we're going to be doing these every month with you, so thanks for that. I'll just say follow us on, if you're interested in learning more about domestic violence and what it entails, follow us on Facebook. And on Instagram, just search for Alliance to End DV or Alliance to End Domestic Violence, and you'll find our platforms.
And also, if they want or wish to get a copy of the DV card, they can stop at any police station and request for one, and there it will have all the agencies' numbers and contact.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Thanks again for the wonderful work you're doing for the Alliance coming together and coordinating in a concerted effort. Maybe invite you, I'll say on behalf of Michael and myself, have a great, safe, productive, enjoyable, relaxing weekend, and hopefully as a community to respond in a civilized way and look at domestic violence as what it is, something that we should not have at all in our society. So enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
All right. When we return from the break, it'll be some open line, and Michael McLaughlin will sit with me. Is he going to dance today? I don't know. Let's see. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, Explore your sister islands.
Avernale Zini Foster Scott, 1915 to 2001. Miss Zini was born on Cayman Brac to Captain Bertie and Huldah Foster, the eldest of 7 children. From a young age, she helped her parents rear her younger siblings. In 1933, she married Captain Clyde Scott. Together, Miss Zini and Captain Clyde, along with their 9 children, raised cattle and crops, exported coconuts and thatch rope, owned and operated a general store, gasoline pump, and soft drink bottling plant, and were pioneers in the heavy equipment business, having established Scott Development Company in 1964. Although she had only a primary education, her natural leadership, business acumen, integrity, honesty, and ambition made her one of Cayman Brac's most successful women. Miss Zini worked in her office and until her early 80s and continued to sign the company's checks until a few weeks before her death. She was recognized by the Cayman Islands Real Estate Brokers Association in 1995 and received the Distinguished Woman Award from the Minister of Women's Affairs in 1999. Shortly before her death, she was awarded the Certificate and Badge of Honor.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
When I was growing up in Cayman, Sundays was always a big day for our family. Everyone would go to Granny's house for Sunday dinner after church. Even today, I can still smell the aroma of all the delicious food we used to eat, especially the hot, fresh baked bread smothered in butter, topped off with our favorite pan cheese. These days, I don't have enough time to cook and bake, but I do my best to carry on the Sunday tradition of family meals, and being able to get hot, fresh bread with no preservatives or additives from Caribbean Bakery is a big help for me. Shh, don't tell them, they still think I baked it. Caribbean Bakery, now delivering every Sunday to McGrath's grocery store in Eastern Avenue and Marina Drive. Caribbean Bakery, made Cayman fresh.
New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it, drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
It's time to stop giving dads tools and ties for Father's Day. Dads want to relax just as much as you. Get the ultimate chillaxing beach kit for Father's Day at Savannah Pharmacy. Beach shorts, shirts, flip-flops, water shoes, goggles, towels, and sunblock. Let Dad kick back and relax this Father's Day. Gift baskets, including domino sets, coffee mugs, and so much more, are also available. Get all of your Father's Day purchases at Savannah Pharmacy and Countryside Shopping Village, or call 946-3336.
I love my daddy, yes sirree.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thank you for joining us. And very grateful, to Michael McLaughlin. I'd say this publicly and hopefully without any sort of inference or insolence on any part, that it's something that we could make more regular, man. You bring much to our discussion, and especially for the YouTube viewers, you bring a much more, appealing, aesthetically pleasing persona. How about that? No?
Whatever you say.
Okay, let's go to the phones.
Okay, we'll go with that.
All right, good afternoon, welcome. Thank you for calling.
Even to try to help you, you can,
You know, I think what we need to do, is somehow find a way that we could encourage and incentivize you to join us sometime in the studio, even if it means removing the cameras.
That's okay. That's okay. I work in with, what you call it, toll free 1-800. I'm doing good.
You're doing good. Well, we always appreciate you calling. How are you today?
I don't know, because there was a revelation made from your studio this morning that I wonder what my government do about that revelation. I hope they even look at it. You know the charges. You were listening to your colleague OC's program this morning.
I caught most of it. I know many that didn't, and Michael is asking that revelation which you refer to.
The one that the bank charges, cashing poor people check. Sounds like a young male person called in and say, well, there's no record of that at the end of the day. So I guess there's none at the end of the week, at the end of this month, and then next month. And how do you keep records of that? So I don't know. I don't know which hole in the ground the money goes into, because lots of people go, and some fees are used to be like $1, and I get to understand that at that time some fees were $10. So I'm just saying, if that story is half true, what happens to the money?
Increasingly.
We got a brand new government. Oh my goodness! And everybody seems to be, in the money kind of business, or at least people at the top.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! And don't tell me nothing about SEMA, because to me they seem like impotent or useless or something.
And you're being kind to what some have shared, and it's not to be disparaging of the people that work there. It is the question as to the function in the organization, the level of authority that they may have.
None at all.
And that is unfortunately,
But I'm going to tell you something. As an old woman, there's a particular bank right in Village Georgetown. Sometimes I would go there according to who was my person at the counter. They say, Mom, I'm not charging nothing today. And all of a sudden, that practice went out the window. And Mom, I have to charge you.
Yeah. It is one thing that I think.
What would that speak to? I mean, every time I see smoke, I think there's a little fire.
Right.
So I put a little relevance to that.
Yeah. Was it not said in recent memory that through SEMA perhaps that the banks, when it comes to their policies relative to the fees that they can charge, whether for check cashing or bank fees or whatever,
or just walk in the door?
Yeah, the banks can do that. The SEMA can't regulate it and the like. And it would seem that there's a perception that when it comes to the domestic market, the Class A banks and the way they conduct business relative to the local customer base, that there's little or no sort of regulation other than...
That's according to who wrote the law.
Right.
If there's any law, or who formulates a policy, if there's any policy,
Right.
But, I mean, at the top now, we got a premier, we got a deputy premier, and to my knowledge, and let me be wrong where I'm wrong, and correct me, and let me be elevated. Both them two gentlemen there know something about finance, banking, at the top for here.
Right.
So if these things are coming to the fore,
but they all have, right?
Yeah, but now they're in charge, man.
Yeah. The question, though, sometimes we have to ask, if we're going to be a maturing democracy and jurisdiction that looks at a greater sense of independence, we've heard that discussed not long ago in what was then a legislative assembly. That word was batted about so easily and freely that...
The thought of the day.
Yeah. And that was political independence to some extent. And then we heard people talking about, developing a central bank. The question then has to be asked if we're going to go to that level of independence and regulation, and we're unable now to seemingly say to banks or to organizations, well, you can't do this or you can't do this way, or if you're going to do this, you need to get approval. I mean, people question...
The approval coming from my premier, the constitution that somebody wrote, and that Attendant Bill of Rights, I guess, if you look at all that, that's in my mind, that's all the approval my government.
Look at
the government needs to look at and do the rest.
If we were to listen, right, just...
I know, we got Argyle, we got that thing you call that, what you call that? Military?
Yeah, that's another thing that is a sore point with me, honestly. That level of seemingly
I was hopeful.
misspeak. Yeah. I don't know. I thought a corps of engineers or a diplomatic corps.
Please don't, you got Holman Corner down the all for you.
Yeah. But it's not a problem in our society that we beat up our gums in private and we don't say anything, and then those who do get ostracized, castigated, maligned, or otherwise victimized, intimidated, or.
I don't care. You know how old I am.
Yeah, but it's the
14.
fear, all right? But let me wonder to what extent we're going to actually step up to the plate and do the right thing.
Listen,
yeah.
you're not gonna get that either. You know why?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at that family tree and you see that your blood can't go no further than Hogside Bay or up then on the rocks up there. But when that can steep off and flow off, sometimes it might not even be anybody's fault. That might be just the nature of the thing that's happening. But you're not going to get that blood. That's talking about blood flowing and life and limb. That's not going to be just like that. Right?
Yeah. Let me ask though, because we've heard from a number of people, from business owners who want to open up a second account at the same bank which they're already an established customer. We heard from individuals who want to do the same thing, or may want to open up an account, for a family member, a child, an underage child. Seemingly, it is shared that there is increasing difficulty, almost next to impossible, to do that. And by the same token, we're hearing that a new employee coming in to work in the financial services sector, for instance, the employer sends a letter across with whatever documentation, and the account is even open before the person walks in the door. Seemingly. And if that is happening, can you imagine a story that I heard recently again from a number of businesses who said, listen, I have a company A, and that company has multiple accounts. I've now set up another business line. I want to open up a separate account to make the accounting, the internal accounting, the reporting that much easier. And I need to have this, that, and the next thing, as if I'm a new customer to the jurisdiction, unknown to the bank at which I've been a customer for X years. If those things are happening, you have to wonder if we are developing the ignorance in bureaucracy, or are we just malicious and trying to frustrate things, or are we being pressured so extensively by external forces that we don't know whether the sky is falling, or if the room is painted red, or if there's a soup in the pot and it's just long water. What is it that we're doing?
Well, I have another little something I could add to your super pot of soup.
Or long water?
That it is my belief that to do certain things, to advance certain situations, to make it easier for me to do business, and to get rid of some of the red tape. Not all red tape, but some of the that is, like you say, cumbersome, and it seems to be a straw in the road. To deter you. It is my belief that the folks who come here will not let that happen readily for us, because they do not want the Caymanian society, the boneyard, the terra firma society, to get any further ahead than we are. They want in another 66 years for my children and grandchildren to be exactly where I am. No advancement, and that's the way to do it. That's one of the ways to do it. You don't allow us to achieve anything, and it's no more than to be downtrodden and mentally defeated, where you put no more physical effort, or you don't have physical effort left to put into the situation. Then the next two generations coming along just mightn't get in the way. And I see that as a very constructive way of handling the situations that Caymanians will never, ever rise up. We got the political class, and it just flows from one side to the next side every 4 years, and that's good. That's okay.
Right. But that's on us,
That the society doesn't get any further along.
Right. But I think to a great extent, we as a people, and I say this knowing that I have had it on my heart for a long time, that all of us, every single one of us, live here, irrespective of where we were born or whether we are claiming another nationality. If this is our home, we better deliberately, consciously, and decisively come together, form that sense of unity, so we build a stronger community to make it safer and better, financially, socially, in every which way. But unless until Caymanians, those of us who can vote, recognize that we have the political franchise and that is not something that should be.
Only one day every 4 years.
Possible interpretation. I would take a different view in that we have to champion our political franchise. We have to respect and recognize that there was great sacrifice, not just globally, to preserve the democracy.
But you call yourself now again the instructor. Here's where the instructor comes in at, no?
Yeah, but our people need to.
I had one give you a teaching position where you could get something from it, but
yeah, well, sometimes to whom knowledge is given is important to impart, and I've been blessed with many who are. Yeah.
You did that, but here's where the teaching proposition comes in, and remember your audience, they're not sitting before you, so you've got to do a lot on faith and tenacity. You've got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and hope that you're not doing it in vain.
Right. Well, you know what?
You can get ready to teach.
You only fail when you stop trying. And I think it's time that we step up to the plate and step up together. I would look back, always enjoyed it, watching them launch.
I have your commitment before the whole world. Just don't need to go to court.
No, sir. I love this place too much, man. I love the people that are here.
So you do your thing, but I just think that if that revelation this morning is half true, that the money goes in, I don't know how you would account for that. I guess you're looking at the day's receipts and say it should be 600, but if it's 850, then the 250 must be mine, and give the bank the 600 or whatever. I don't know how that works, but something smells right there, and I'm talking to, what call it again? Monetary Authority. That's a regulatory body. Try to do something about that for us, please.
Well, it is.
Man, have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Take
as
care,
we go to the
Mashani.
break, that's a lady who is not only well spoken, have great courage and tenacity, and through her words, I think can empower a lot of us to equally stand in faith, but step up and do the right thing. The greatest exercise of power, they say, is restraint, but the greatest show of cowardice is doing nothing. Let's pause and take a break. When we come back, more Talk Today.
The 7 a.m. news Monday through Friday is proudly sponsored by CG Britke Insurance, Health, Pensions, Life, where people come first.
It's not Toolfest again at A.L. Thompson's. Toolfest is the annual two-day event held since 2009. Not Toolfest is our travel-restricted version. Instead of 2 days, Not Toolfest is 2 weeks of the best prices of the year on select tools, buy one, get one offers, and a free laser level with tool purchases over $200. So plan now for a Not event that you cannot miss. May 21st through June 5th at A.L. Thompson's. It's not Toolfest, but it's almost as good.
Student registration for the 2021-2022 academic school year is open to the public from 8th of April to 30th of June 2021. Students must now be registered online at schools.edu.ky. Parents will have the ability to enter their students' information and securely upload all relevant documents. If you need assistance, please contact the Department of Education Services at 945-1199 or email edu.registration@gov.ky.
New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it, drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasadora Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands. The ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom. The land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, tomorrow, before we continue the discussion, just a quick reminder that today and tomorrow. Today at 6 p.m., tomorrow at 3 p.m. Let's go to the Trumborn Sports Complex. Our track and field athletes. It's the national championships in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, wow.
And I know we're great fans when it comes to sport and track and field, and we can see many times, let's say swimming, for instance, right near the boxing gym, the car park is overflowing.
Nice. And
people are out there supporting the swimming. We have a big wide open stadium and track stars are next. Carl Lewis's and Jesse Owens are there. And when we think of it, we just don't have budding Olympians, but we have people here in our schools who are performing. So if you can, 6 p.m.
Absolutely. I just saw on Facebook the other day about a couple locals who are now off at school in university who made it to national recognition through their universities. They all started right here on our little track and our little pool, and they are now stepping up into the greater stage of sports arena. So it only happens through the origins of the support here.
That's it, man. So today 6 o'clock, tomorrow 3 o'clock, part of the national championships. Mr. McLaughlin, if you would help me to remember to say that a number of times throughout the day, because I want us to be out there supporting, cheering, and
absolutely
enjoying
Trumborn Sports Complex.
Yeah. All right, let's go to our phones though. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon,
How are you today?
Good afternoon to Mr. Mike.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah. I realized Sterling Green was taking up some of my time.
No, sir. No, sir. Your time is ordained by God.
Breaks so he can say, well, it's break time. The issues they're speaking about, banking and so forth, I listened to Mr. O.C. this morning and for the record, and I heard it all, and I've heard the complaints many times about this, because it wasn't always so, with having to charge for cashing a check that is drawn on that bank by a person who has an account in the bank, but drawn, given to someone to cash for payment, whatever, that they owe them something, and then the person tries to cash the check and they charge them for it. It wasn't always like that. We know that. So it's something that developed, say, in the last maybe 15 years. I don't think it's longer than that.
I think it's less than that, but anyway.
It's less than that.
Yes, sir.
So it's important that we would check. I never heard anyone say, have we compared this to other countries to see what they're doing? There are countries around us, other overseas territories, colonies, whatever you want to see, and other independent countries. Is this happening? So is it a trend that's taking place? The other thing is this. The banks are moving more and more, as we all know from a long time ago, towards just doing business with big accounts, and to plastic, and getting away from actual transactions.
Yes,
paper, from paper, and receipt with the companies before. I remember very well, and I've said it before, about 1974, and I was having to run a rent-a-car business here, and a car sale thing. We had a dealership, so it was small. That when going out to the airport, we'd often do that, my brother and I. And I said to him, when I watched the people coming in with their suitcases filled with cash, and of course now it's done by electronic transfers and so lots of much more sophisticated, but it's the same thing. I said, one day we will pay for this. The time has come for the one day. That lady, all is contributing greatly. Caymanian, generational Caymanian, said about her children and grandchildren. They will simply, if you can't lick them, join them. And that's what maybe will happen with children. We won't be around to know.
But if I could ask you, sir,
yes,
what is your view? Because according to the U.S. Secret Service, the FBI, and either other international agencies, the level of money laundering and terrorist financing is probably higher in the city of London and in New York than it is in the Cayman Islands.
That is possible because there's a lot of money. We don't do anything here really to make money. Those countries are highly productive countries. You have to think about that. That's where the money is. And the United States is huge. I think the federal that prints the money, the Federal
Reserve,
Reserve, and that it's the largest printer in the world, and also the dollar bills alone that they produce. If you stack it up in 1 year end to end, it will pass the moon.
Yeah.
Just dollar bills. You have to understand that's where money is. People go and people try to, and terrorist things will move through, and there's a lot of times that they try to move money into here. That's why we have to have so serious intervention,
banking laws, yeah,
and processes in place. But that is the business we are in. We elected to go into that business some 50 years ago.
From your perspective, if I could ask you, let's say that you're dealing with two banks locally. Bank A, so money is in Bank A and it's being transferred to money in Bank B, whether from your account to your other account or from you to another customer. If the money is already in our banking system, in Bank A, it's going through all the due diligence, it's been properly vetted, it's in that bank, it's been accepted by that bank, they've satisfied themselves that, the proof of funds, source of funds, and all that stuff. Should you then have to go through the same thing if you were doing a draft or a local transfer of some sort to move from Bank A in Grand Cayman to Bank B in Grand Cayman? You're not even literally moving it overseas to Cayman Brac. I say that facetiously, right? But if it's in the banking system in the Cayman Islands and you're moving it around from one bank to the next, what level of additional scrutiny do you think is required, if at all any?
I mean, my case, well, I'd be moving it from one mattress to the other.
You're probably smarter. There you go. There you go, sir.
That's in my case.
Yeah. You
see, it's a very complex thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this before over and over and over again. So it sounds like my old friend Black Arthur, in memory. He's not playing record thing.
You never play that one, you say, huh?
We are in a very unique situation. We have no form of direct income tax.
But how would that solve anything?
Listen to me very carefully,
yes, sir.
please. It does solve things because you have to, by law, make up returns to your government in countries, and that's how they catch them in those countries. Remember the greatest cook in the world, the man who made the most money any human being has ever made per week, Al Capone. He was only caught and put in prison with all the murders he committed or organized by the IRS.
In the tax, no? Yep.
Yes, and that's how he was caught, by failure, because they were watching him carefully, and that's what they do in income tax situations. They watch you carefully. When you say you have 2 Benzes and 3 expensive BMWs and whatever else, and a $2 million house, but you only earn $100,000 a year, the government knows that is bunkum. Here we can't really do anything about it because we don't have that ability to say to you, we are going to investigate you and tell you that's not what the situation is. We are going to tell you what you really make and what you really owe. Or you're going to jail, or you may go to jail and still have to pay the taxes, which has happened to many people. The whole thing is a matter of control, and that's what I believe in. I believe in control. When you're dealing with the finance, or we wouldn't be crying and bawling if you're not willing to have a system where the government is at some point looking over your shoulder to make sure that you're going to be honest and you're going to divulge all the information, then, we're going to face these things at all times. We can do something about this, And I've used the word often, Mr. Winston Churchill's famous word, courage. It takes courage. We can easily blame everything on 19 people that we elected. It's 23,000 and something of us that elect them. And I wish we would really, when we say we, and I'm using it and everybody uses it, define who the we are. When we say we want to go independent, which is rubbish, you can't do that. And I mean political independence. That's out of the window. 60 years ago, we could not know. And this notion of other things, we clearly define the we as generational Caymanians. We're going to have to do it soon to keep our culture, to keep everything going that we value dearly and so forth. So if, like I said, if we want to, we could find out, is this happening in other countries and why? This banking thing we're talking about. And yesterday, I'd just like to mention real quickly, when you're talking about that lady, that a woman, I'd have to call her the way I see her dress sometimes. I wouldn't call her a lady anymore. And out there by the governor's residence, it's not often that I ever agree with the Jordanian fellow there, ambassador, or whatever you call him. But I agree with him 100% what he said. There has to be a time when there's a limit on what you can do on protest. We cannot allow things to get out of hand and get it into something like what happened in the Vietnam anti-war protest era in the United States that caused so much dissension and problems there.
Yes, sir.
We cannot do that. Burning flags and defecating on flags in public and insulting brave warriors returning from abroad, brave soldiers. We cannot allow that to happen here, where we get to that stage of total disruption and total disrespect for our government and our leaders and our governor and our alliance with the British government.
Yes,
that can't happen and must not happen.
Yes,
so she should be moved from where she is.
Well,
all right. Well, thank you very much, sir, for all of that you've contributed there over the past few minutes. I certainly think that you have provided not only us, but all the general listening public lots of food for thought. And we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
When you're tight on time and budget, but big on flavor, Subway's Meal of the Day hits the spot. Enjoy daily meals on classic sandwiches like tuna, Black Forest ham, meatball marinara, and more. Starting at $6.25 for 6-inch meals and $8.75 for footlongs. You can get Subway's Meal of the Day. Enjoy a different sandwich on a different day for the same price. Mix it up with cookies or chips or waffle fries for the same price. Subway. Eat fresh. Did you know that defective airbags can cause serious injury or even death if not repaired immediately? Right now, millions of vehicles around the world are under recall for faulty Takata airbags, and yours could be one of them. At Vant Motors, our priority is to make sure the Toyota or Ford you drive is safe. So we are offering customers a free, fast, and easy airbag swap out if your vehicle was manufactured in 2016 or earlier. Find out if you need to have new airbags installed by emailing your Ford or Toyota vehicle's VIN or vehicle identification number to service@vantmotors.com, or stop by Vamp's Service Center or call us at 949-2245. Don't risk it. Get the airbags in your Toyota or Ford checked for free at Vant Motors on Walkers Road.
The Tuesday and Thursday edition of The Business Buzz is brought to you by Cayman Medical Supplies, providing quality pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, and consumer products to healthcare providers, retailers, and ultimately the patients at a reasonable rate in a friendly, caring, and timely manner. Cayman Medical Supplies is located at number 93 Smith Road, Windward Center. Telephone 949-6211.
New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it, drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasadora Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Celebrate the Queen's Birthday weekend by taking part in the Botanic Park's 5K Run Walk. Come out to the park on Sunday, June 13th and help raise funds for the Children's Garden Development. Your $25 fee includes a t-shirt, breakfast, and a chance to win in our prize draw. Enter the Royal Fascinator Design Challenge and take home the trophy for the best design. The Botanic Park's Queen's Birthday 5K, Sunday, June 13th. Register now at racecaribbean.net.
Sponsored by the Ministry of Tourism, Cayman National Bank, Water Authority Cayman, Coca-Cola, Fidelity, and High Impact Media.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to Michael McLaughlin and to all the callers. And let's go to the phones, man. Good afternoon. How are you today?
Not as good as you, but I'm good.
Well, listen, I thank God for His mercies, grace, love, provision, and protection, my friend, every day.
Pardon me?
I give thanks for all, so I appreciate it.
I don't quite hear you too well. Say that
Okay.
again?
Well, should I speak it in a different language? How about this one? Is that better? Is it the connection?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. No, so repeat that again, so I make sure that I'm going to answer you with a legitimate answer.
Okay. How are you, man? Talk to me. Tell me what's shaking in your tree.
What I want to say was, like, I've been listening for a while now, and I see where the everybody's like giving good answers and stuff like that. And the thing is that I think that especially like the young lady that called, she called herself old, but I think she's very intelligent. And we're talking about banks and stuff like that. And it seems to me that most people don't understand that Bank A, Bank B, Bank C, Bank D, whatever they are, that all the banks in the world are owned by a conglomerate called, I won't mention, but it's a group of people. I know the Rothschilds and people like that are involved. And it's them that are don't mean the tellers in the bank, because they get orders from the people over them, and they get orders from these people up there. And what they're doing right now, from what I see and hear, is it's all about the new world order. They got to change everything. One day, I think they expect all of us to be, subservient to them, and they see all these money changes and all this stuff with this Bitcoin and all that, and then people are rushing to. I wouldn't put a penny in the Bitcoin, because unless I was going to make $1 billion and sell it all together. But people are losing money because they are focused on money. What we should be focusing on is a life in this world that everybody can be happy with it, you're poor, rich, or you know what. Because I remember we had good examples that were set years and years ago, but the longer we live, the more we see the inequality that's going on. And these people, they don't care. They want to control the world. You see? And this is the thing that's destroying everything. Nobody is listening. Nobody thinks that this is going to come to an abrupt stop, which is going to happen. And I'll tell you this. By September, the number that comes up to me, the 5th this year, there will be an eye-opener as far as world economy is concerned. Okay? Because God is tired of seeing what's going on. When I see poor people up and down, people that I know that used to work hard, doing construction work and stuff like that. People used to work in real estate. People used to be in the banks. Today, if you see 3 or 4 Caymanians any place, you're lucky. We have destroyed Cayman, in my opinion. And until we get to the point where we decide that people in this island, we are outnumbered already. Caymanians are outnumbered. I can tell you that. And all you got to do, look at some of the magazines and the things, and you look at where people have gathered together. I was looking at a photograph the other day in the the Dart newspaper, where all these children had graduated, and some of them were getting scholarships and stuff like that. And when you see the names, you know they're not Caymanians, as we know them. And until the day we can get together as Caymanians and decide, like the old guys used to do when people would come here years ago back in the 1950s about there, and they say, we want to do this, we want to do that. And these people were smart enough to say to them, well, you know, we appreciate you want to come down and do this, but I don't think we need any more hotels now or any more this and that. And we remained a destination that people want to come to. What I'm saying, gentlemen, is this, and I'm speaking this so that hoping that all the politicians that are in now will consider these things, because it's the way that we're going to be able to survive. Because if we let foreign nationals come in and do what I'm seeing happening down on 7 Mile Beach, where you see buildings, and I don't even have to call the name of the buildings or the company that do it, but in that place you'll see a big hole with nothing in it but a couple of rods sticking out of something. I don't know what it is, but it's 75% sold, and no construction equipment is there. You go down the road on the highway coming up on the Methodist Ibbets, you see places just started, 75% sold. 75% seems like a figure that somebody must say, but that's a good figure to put out there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And these are the things that's going to destroy
Yes, sir.
Cayman.
Yes, sir.
So I'm hoping that we can all stop and think, and including from top to bottom, and let's work to try to make Cayman a better place, or not a better place because we were always a good place, but to make it again a place like it was when we used to call it the island time forgot, where people were happy, poor, rich, everybody, but people respected each other and that kind of thing. So
yeah, that's it. Respect, humility, love, decency, unity in the community. Hey, thank you very much, and I think we hear your heart, and that's sort of the appeal. Let's work together to make it better. It's good, but can be better. Stay tuned for Talk Today. We'll join you right after.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Cayman Carnival Batabanu team informs the public their upcoming event, Le Masque, has been cancelled due to circumstances beyond their control. In international news, a 41-year-old Chinese man has been confirmed as the first human case of infection with a rare bird flu strain. Officials did not give details on how the man got infected, but the H1N3 strain is thought to not easily spread from human to human. The Jiangsu province resident, who was diagnosed last week, has now recovered and is ready to be discharged. Apple has released a software update for AirTags following concerns they could be used to track people secretly. AirTags were released in April and were promoted as a way for people to keep track of their belongings. Following the update, AirTags will beep if they are away from their owner's iPhone at a random time between 8 and 24 hours to alert people nearby. NASA has announced that it is sending 2 new missions to Venus in order to examine the planet's atmosphere and geological features. The missions, which have been awarded $500 million in funding, are due to launch between 2028 and 2030. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, welcome back. Thanks for joining us, and joining me is Mr. Michael McLaughlin. A couple of callers online. Eve, thank you for your patience and your contribution. Good afternoon and welcome. Hello, good afternoon. How are you? You back with us? All right.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh, I would like to thank Mr. H for his taxation advice. I don't know why we can't get it. That's another topic for you. And as for things that can happen and don't happen and should happen but will never happen, I look at my issue of campaign finance reform. We're not going to get it as long as we don't have good, strong, robust campaign finance reform, because coming, like, you know I know I already paid my bill and I can do what I want. And that's issue number 2. And then the one down there on the West Bay Road, what do you call it? The corridor. Okay.
The strip.
The West Bay corridor.
Yeah, the corridor. Down by my house. That's my house, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. An evergreen, a sign that you see down that you can't count the Bible, so you can't count it.
That's right.
Everyone. So, powers that be, I mean, freedom and the Constitution and Bill of Rights and all that kind of stuff. Please deal with that, because it looks bad.
On the global stage, indeed.
Good.
Yeah.
The optics aren't good. Just the look-see. And then the connotations and the denotations of it all, they are even worse.
Wasara.
Wasara, you know. So look, I can you know the whole day now.
All right.
And you're free tomorrow.
There you might be. One more call, Miss Susan? I want to maybe... Well, Mike, unless you want to jump in, and I was going to ask something, but go ahead.
No,
if you
go
want
ahead,
to.
sir.
Right. So before I do, right, just a quick reminder that the national championships for track and field this evening.
That's correct, yes, sir.
6 o'clock tonight, 3 p.m. tomorrow. But a question, though, that I want to maybe ask. If we're speaking to the lady who is publicly demonstrating something, I understand that some people may be offended by it. They may be justified with saying the optics, how it looked locally or internationally. I am wondering, though, to what extent, if we were to say to someone that they no longer have a right to protest, to publicly demonstrate, what happens when it's you or it's on something else? And then secondly, if somebody feels sufficiently aggrieved, whether there is some health issue, whether it is just they're being malicious or mental health or maliciousness, or they're just misguided, and we as a society either ignore it, so we do nothing to openly address it, to invite the person in honestly, objectively, professionally, impartially, Christianly, as best as we can, to acknowledge, to address it, to come to some meaningful resolution. Or if we take the person away, like we see happen or allegedly happen through history in other jurisdictions, where we just grab them up and we take them and we never see them or hear from them again, whether it's disappeared in some of the other regimes or whether it's a communist dictatorship. But what happens in democracies as well? If that sort of thing is encouraged, invited, or accepted, or ignored when it happens, then we're no better off.
Well, I think that everybody, it would not be my position that you do not have the right.
Yeah.
Okay? But I also agree with the fact that there needs to be parameters that are acceptable within that right. I also believe that as we have our own nationality, that anything that is done from a protest position that is for another nationality, if they feel that they are being suppressed for whatever reason, I don't believe that it still gives them the right to effectively demoralize or deface our nationality.
Right. And I think I hear what you're saying, and I think that there is perhaps added to that one, that within the Cayman ethos, we don't publicly demonstrate, and we have not got to that space. That's not who we are as a people. There certainly needs to be a greater sense of assertiveness on our part without being aggressive. But look at when we have the celebrations for Jamaican independence and we close off the central business district. Should we even allow that? And if we allow it for Jamaica, why not Philippines, Canada, America, UK, Colombia, Honduras?
I don't think that there's anything stopping that. It's a matter of organization.
Should we even grant approval for that?
Why
in the first
not?
place?
I mean, I personally, I don't see where there is any conflict there. What we are talking about, though, is where somebody feels like they are being suppressed or they themselves are feeling pressures of society that they are wanting to draw attention to themselves for whatever matter. I mean, we had something recently where those Cuban nationals were feeling as though they were not being treated fairly, and they did their protesting and they had their little flag there too, you know. But it's a matter of choosing how far are you allowed to go. I'm not saying that an individual should not be given the opportunity to, but at the same time we are talking about our government house. Right.
Fair enough. But let's think back to a public comment as he was then, MLA Chris Saunders, then in this studio referenced that as he moved him, we just say it loosely, within the Bordentown electoral district, right? He was moving about, visiting, voters in that area. He went into a house of, a fine gentleman. In the house, he thought he was in Jamaica. Everything, and Mr. Saunders at that time detailed very, very, very detailed account of how the house looked. I think he said from the burglar bars right down to the paintings to everything, right? And if that is the case in our society, that we have people in their homes, in their public spaces, openly demonstrating, their sort of penchant for their ethnicity, their nationality, are we doing anything to integrate, acclimate, to assimilate, to invite people to participate in what is a Cayman, presumably for all, so that we grow a community that is united based on a shared ethos of economic and political stability, of social harmony, and a sense of prosperity that is not just measured by the amount of money and wealth that we have, but by a people who are appreciative of the cultural, historical significance, the melding of things that come into play, whether through food and so on. And if we're going to, I come back to the example of closing off the Central Business District. If we're going to celebrate a particular nationality, is that at the expense of Cayman and other nationalities? Is it at the promotion of one thing and perhaps the demotion of another thing? Is it that in doing that, we're sending not just a very, how should we put it, almost perspective, is what it comes to mind, but some may find that a little bit too harsh, right? That this is much more important than that. You see, this is a place that we have to now realize, because of the change in paradigm around the globe, that if we aren't willing to work together in this space, it could become easily a cauldron as opposed to a melting pot. Right?
So, are you suggesting then that as you have used the Jamaican nationals having their independence celebrations, that is in some way segregating them, promoting them over us because they're holding that celebration?
No, it's not the suggestion. That is the questioning of, take that in light of when we see the Filipinos have their volleyball or their basketball or their singing or other events, right? We quickly castigate and say, well, that's segregation, that is exclusion, even though when after some protest by the public, oh no, it's open for all, right? The question is, to what extent the promotion of one thing, the approval for something else, is creating the perception that but this can happen. We know the Canadians in Cayman celebrate Canada Day. We see growingly the Americans having Independence Day, and we go along for the fireworks and the barbecue and the like. And as we bring more and more of us together, we see the connections. I think we're more alike than we are different. But the yacht that comes into harbour, it's not flying the flag of the host harbour as well as the registered flag. Maritime protocol dictates that's not acceptable. The car that's driving in the streets that may have a flag, should we not say, well, if this is the land of bread and butter for you now, should it not just be more than just a public demonstration, but if not at least that you're now going to show deference, a healthy respect for who you are, your ancestry, your heritage, your origins, your nationality, but also your now adopted homeland or your country that you are now at present. I know that there's a call or two online, but it is a call to come together and to recognize how quickly and easily we're being divided. And if that is deliberate, then who's the puppet master behind the scenes? if it's inadvertent, are we now willing to be conscious or aware that this is happening? And so instead of focusing on differences, let's focus on where we are more alike. Let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Now we're looking for a learned gentleman who can guide us, and you appear, so thank you.
Hello, Mike. Mike,
Yes.
how are you?
Yes, sir. I'm grateful. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Very good. I was trying to call in yesterday when I heard you and that Jordanian guy talking about this later down, but it so happened that I was in that area and I purposely drove across the governor's residence. There was no sign of anything like that. I stopped and looked, and so apparently the powers that be took care of it. So I don't know why he was talking about it, because it had already happened and gone. But I don't listen to me. Me and my siblings, we grew up in Jamaica. I spent 17 years there before I came to Cayman. And and at one time there were like 15 Cayman Brac families living in Harbour View in Jamaica. And we never tried to do all the things that I see them doing here. When I was there before the independence, and when they got independence, they had a big street dance. I participated as if I was one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't necessarily agree with what happened with this woman. I mean, that should have been clipped in the bud.
Yes.
I do not see that as any demonstration other than a nuisance.
Okay.
Because if I think of other nationalities coming here and trying, I never tried to carry my culture to Jamaica.
Right.
When I came to Cayman, I never tried to bring my culture that I grew up in to Cayman.
Right.
So, I suppose you have all different nationalities. Like what happened with the Cubans that you just mentioned?
Yes, sir.
I thought that was out of order. I mean, how dare he do things that he did? Somebody should have stopped that long with clip it in the bud.
Yes, sir.
But I do not think that going in front of the governor's residence and doing what she apparently did, because I saw clips of it.
Yes.
But I guarantee it was taken care of, even though after the fact, all the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But,
okay.
The powers that be need to be more cognizant of the fact that these people should not be allowed to do those sort of things.
Okay.
It's not part of our culture. That's my idea.
Yes, sir. Okay.
And I also wanted to mention, when I was listening yesterday, the people who came on immediately after that guy, I couldn't get on then because there was no call in. But I just wanted to really say how much those people have worked and how successful they have been.
Yes, sir.
I've been a part of Alcoholics Anonymous for the past 19 years, and I know what it has done for me.
Yes, sir.
I didn't go through the system, the Bridge Foundation thing, but
yes.
But I mean, it's absolutely. Up to last night, I was at a meeting in Barton Town, And
yes, sir.
It's so encouraging to me to know that people look up to me because I went through the whole ropes. I had a problem, I got rid of it, thank God. But I have to do it every day to maintain. And people look at me now, they don't even remember the days when I used to partake.
Right. Yeah. Well, congratulations to you there too, sir.
Yeah.
And I think it is important that it is recognized, and that people find persons that they can look up to. But we're thank you very much for the call, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with some more callers.
Things just got a bit hotter on Island. Come in today and order the new spicy Korean subs at Subway. They're sweet, spicy, and especially satisfying. Stop in and try the pulled pork with spicy Korean sauce, or the chicken with spicy Korean sauce. And you can message WhatsApp at 929-4658. Order online or use Let's Eat or the Bento app. The spicy Korean subs at Subway in 2 flavors, extra saucy and extra spicy. Subway, eat fresh.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day.
Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Want your kids to gain social skills, independence, self-confidence indoors? King Sports Center Art of Fun Summer Camp is the solution. Make memories, learn new skills and life skills. Activities include basketball, football, dodgeball, arts and crafts, squash, drama, kids aerobics, bowling, and much, much more. King Sports Center Art of Fun Summer Camp will be held from July 6th through August 6th. July 6th through August 6th. Monday to Friday from 8:30 a.m. until 5 p.m. Camp includes all activities, 1 lunch, and 2 breaks. The early bird special ends on May 31st. For more information, call 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky. Your one-stop facility for fitness, recreation, relaxation.
For 32 years, the Cayman Islands National Dance Company have performed well-received shows for enthusiastic audiences. For our 33rd season, we're grateful for the support, the dedicated dancers, and sacrifices made. So without further ado, Cayman Islands National Dance Company presents Gratitude. Gratitude celebrates over 3 decades of performances, both established and new dances. Gratitude is a must-see. June 5th and 6th at Harkwell Theater. Get your tickets today at Radiance Dance Studio, at the door, or call 926-1826. Sponsored by Caribbean Utilities Company, ARC Directors, Vise Closet, and Radio Cayman.
New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it, drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And it's a Friday, and I'm hoping and praying that you are having a good day as we take the other call. Welcome. Thanks for calling. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Dwayne.
Good afternoon, my friend. How are you today?
Good, man. Good afternoon to you. To Michael as well.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
I got to agree with your last caller regarding the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether to call it a demonstration or what. But, it is bad enough seeing a Caymanian go down in front of the governor's residence to display such, I don't know what I was so angry at it that I will not even give it a term. But not one Caymanian would do that I was seeing. But that we sit down here and allow these people that we welcome to our shores just come and do whatever they feel like doing, whenever they feel like doing it. It really, something has got to be done with these situations. They got to be stopped early, nipped in the bud very, very early.
Okay.
And I was reading social media there, and also on your OC show this morning, there was some discussion about this program, the farmers program being terminated. It is not terminated for farmers, but Dwayne and Michael, it was a sin, a shame, and a disgrace to see the way that system was being taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't even get ground cloth up there because the people were coming, taking the ground cloth and selling it back to their friends, taking the chemicals, taking the fertilizer, everything in the world, selling it back to their friends. Not got no use for it because they were never farmers and will never be farmers.
Right.
Yeah.
So I commend the minister for taking the stance that he did. Cayman cannot afford. We're still not open up. The people that that need those kind of stipends should be getting it, not those who don't have no use for it and just grab it because it's $400 in stipend for the month.
Right.
You know.
I think what you're sharing, when I saw it, and I look at it from a number of people who are, for want of a better word, have tried to sustain themselves by having food put on the table, and also maybe a little extra to get a few dollars when they could bring it down to the market, right? But I agree with you. It speaks to two things. One, potentially the apparent abuse or alleged abuse by some, but two, maybe the challenges financial men are facing and trying to figure out how can they legally apply for some levels of assistance without feeling as if they are begging for something, knowing that, you know, they may have a nice little backyard, you know, sort of ground. But then, is there a way going forward to be able to incentivize more of us to get into gardening, to farming, to, you know, even if it's just the backyard, to provide it to the table and the like, without it, you know, being this great potential for being abused? I mean, any thoughts on either of those?
If you have a yard,
Mm-hmm.
I think if you have a yard,
Mm-hmm.
it should be incumbent on you. Listen, I told my wife when we built our house, we had a load of hibiscus and all kinds of stuff. I told her after 2 years of maintaining that, I told her, I said, listen to me, I'm not staying in my yard in terms of plant whether I can get some food or some vegetable off it. So I plant my yard.
Yep.
No government should have to come and tell me or encourage me to plant food for myself. No government.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay?
Well, it's what we
That
did.
is something that you should take the initiative to do yourself.
Yes.
Right?
But I think too that, and I commend you for that, and that's probably the practice that, you know, our parents had and their parents had. But I think that increasingly the resources to get those things, the money to buy the resources that we need, may have proved challenging for a number of individuals in order to either maintain that backyard garden that they had, or to perhaps improve it and increase the output. So again, is there a way that we can
perhaps a simple solution might be that any individual who, under their own initiative, as he is suggesting, is using their land, then perhaps the government employee from the relevant department, would go and visit the premise, and from that, then they
offer some sort of assistance, technical as well as financial.
They choose, you know, what is the level of assistance that this individual qualifies for, rather than it just being an open thing now where, you know, you fill out the paperwork and you apply for it, and it's
free for all,
a blanket amount of money that is allocated.
Yeah. Sir, appreciate you sharing it. Anything else you want to share with us? Because I think
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
No, thank you, man. I wasn't
Thank you very much
dismissing
for
you,
the call.
It is one of those other swords. I believe we have one final call. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for calling.
Yes, gentlemen, the last will be the first.
The first will be the last.
Put it. Yes, I agree with that caller there about the abuse of systems. Again, it comes back to what I said. When there is control, direct income tax, you have to show where you get the money from, where you give it, so forth, or you will pay a penalty. Anyhow, Sterling Green, it's nice for you to suggest all those nice things that we could be and the nice situation we could be in and where we could go. We all got along and we all help each other. And that's what the churches preach about, getting to heaven. So they need to go to church, these people, and learn. That's where you'll find the utopia. And that is what Christianity is all about. And Lord Jesus speaks about it. But that's the reality. Again, I agree with that, those scholars. That should never be, my friend there, Stativich. Also, that it shouldn't be. And so we have to nip these things in the bud. With regard of the celebrations of the Jamaicans about independence, you've got to remember the close relationship with Jamaica that was just 60 years ago, and many things because of the British governor there being in overall charge of the governor here and so forth and so on for so many years. And there's a big difference with that, allowing that country to do that. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but there's a lot of money made off merchants. And we cannot do it for every country. We have 135.
But why not? Why not? But let me ask them, what about the close association that the Cayman Islands also has with Cuba, with the Bay Islands, and with other parts of the Spanish-speaking Caribbean? I mean, isn't there also a very close association?
They take part in the Batmanu and all sorts of things.
No, I'm not talking about that nonsense. I'm talking about the close association, historically, culturally, politically, economically, in every which way. Isn't there a very close association with the Cayman Islands and Cuba, the Bay Islands, and other parts of the Spanish-speaking Caribbean as well?
Politically, we have really none. We're a British crown colony, but we have family there. I have probably more family in the Bay Islands now than my father, especially the
yes, sir.
Yeah, and so forth. But that doesn't allow everybody to have this kind of thing. And we can't. There has to be a limit to everything that we do.
But isn't what good for the goose is good for the gander?
No. That is nice in fairy tales and
okay.
The same thing I'm talking about. It doesn't happen in reality. We can't allow it. There has to be stops.
Hello, sir? Mike, can you hear him?
No.
Hello, sir?
Hello?
Yeah,
yes, sir.
I'd just like to ask us to remember that the 6th of June, Sunday, one of the most important days in the history of this planet, the greatest invasion that took place, Normandy, where that famous German general called the longest day, and they made great movies off of it. Many men sacrificed their lives, and that was the turn around of that tremendous great war, the Second World War. We should remember that day very, very well. It's so important. 7 years ago, it's not that long ago in history. So that we should keep that in mind. When we talk about these things, preserving democracy and preserving our right to say no when it needs to be said, that's very important. I disagree with anyone who wants to think that woman should be allowed to do whatever she feels like doing, and any one of us should be allowed to, especially people who are not generational Cayman or not even from here. No, I don't think so. I think there must be ways and means to control situations before we go into complete chaos. We don't need that type of thing here. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a safe and enjoyable weekend. Mr. McLaughlin, it's always a pleasure, sir. I hope that you're allowing your busy schedule to find some time in it to join us. I really appreciate it personally. I know our listeners benefit greatly, and if nothing else, we see that there's an open platform that we can all contribute and we can share alike.
Absolutely, sir. I appreciate the opportunity too, and we want to remind folks about going out to the Truman Bodden Sports Complex this evening and tomorrow, this afternoon and tomorrow evening, right?
Yeah, man. And I'd perhaps maybe share it this way from a couple of our listeners. This particular listener maybe waited and shared it better in this sense. The listener says that, it is, when we look at the amount of participation and support that we get from different things, maybe the public could be invited to come out to the national championships over there. We saw many of the government officials supporting the beauty pageants and the like, and perhaps that same level of support for our youth athletes can be there as well. Because if you're around as a parent, as a participant, or just someone who is nearby, you see more and more of their services sacrifice, that level of training from the athlete and their coaches. So hopefully this evening, 6 o'clock, tomorrow at 3, we'll be out for the national championships, and not only to we'll do it in the Super Jam. So we want to, as Mr. McLaughlin reminds us, what was Dance Unlimited now was the National Dance Company. There's a wonderful dance performance this evening, tomorrow evening at the Harcourt at 5 p.m. on Sunday. And the Gratitude is what they termed this year's performance, their 33rd season. Between now and tomorrow on some of our programming, whether tomorrow morning or this evening in the Super Jam, listen out. You might be the winner of some tickets. All right. Any closing thoughts from you, my friend?
God bless and stay safe.
Amen. Well, come back Monday for the record with Mr. Art Connor. Join us for Talk Today right after the midday news. It is our monthly Mental Health Matters show. Always grateful to Dr. Alexandra Borden for what she's done. Today's show, we selected a song, if you haven't figured it out yet, many things I really like. Music being one of them, Billy Joel being one of the performers. If it's him, Third World, or Bob Marley, they're all good storytellers and performers. Today's song is all about soul, a nice song I like. I invite you to seriously consider being an active, engaged, informed, loving, willing participant in making this country the very best. It isn't that we live in a land of idealism and naivety, but we believe that truly working hand in glove together, we can do better. You want to get somewhere, you got to start. If you want to improve, well, you have to be willing to persevere. If you want success, you got to be willing to make the sacrifice. If you want love, you got to give love. Give a little to get a little. You just don't need to go along, get along, but you got to make sure that you do it with style. Right, my friend?
I hear you, buddy.
I hear you, man. One day I shall rise and let the pun. No, just kidding.
Mrs. Nowadays going, I had a dream that you would stop talking.
I truly love this place, man. I love this place, and I want it to be better. So listen up for this song and see if it speaks to you. Thanks to Miss Susan and all the wonderful team at Radio Cayman. And to all in Sunday, please be out and about, be civil, kind, loving, and considerate. Mr. Art's words, remember we are a brother's keeper.
Indeed.
To those who persevere, you shall see the prosperity. Until Monday, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. And Royal Fidelity Bank and Trust, money at work.